Hi, my name is Terry Lee, and this is video 2 in our Lapbook series. Video 1 was just an overview, and so today we're going to create the base. The base is going to be these two covers. We're not even going to go through the middle. That was in the intro video, but these two covers, and that's going to include these two book sides. You can see it looks like a book here. That's why it's called a Lapbook. Anyway, and then we're also going to make the pocket on the back. Okay, so here we go. For this part, you're going to need two manila folders that are center tab. Now, we're going to cut the tabs off, but the reason we need center tabs is because we need this part right here in the middle. Okay, so we're going to open each one up and cut the tab off, and there's a little notch right here, so just cut it off at that little notch. On these particular ones, the notch is equal or even on both ends. See if I can get my hands to work right here. Okay, save your tab. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? All right, and decapitate the other one. That looks a little crooked. Oh, still looks a little low on this end. Maybe the folder's a little uneven. They're not necessarily all perfectly straight. Okay. So now what you've got are two headless folders. You're going to want to label one A and the other one B. And what we need to do to construct this is very easy. What we're going to do is we're going to make these two folders, instead of the 11 something that they are, we are going to make them 10 5/8 inches high. That's the height that a kit page is when it's the white is trimmed off of it. If you want, and I may even do it, trim the kit pages down a little bit so that there's a little bit of a border showing around all the way. It just depends on what you and I decide to do. All right, now the thing is, we want to leave this tab, trying to get it to where you can see it and it's not all against the same color. We want this tab to stay in the middle. I'm going to call it the tab, even though I know the tab goes like this, but the inside tab to be centered in the page still. So a manila folder is 11 and some crazy odd number high. So in order for us to get 10 5/8, we need to measure to the center first. The center is 5 13/16 of an inch in. So I did 3 back from 6 inches, and that's the center. Then from the center, you're going to measure out each way. Five 5/16. Sorry for that moment of silence, and I'm sorry if there was extra noise there. The manila folder was hitting my mic. So you're going to measure 5 5/16 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/16. And then you're going to measure 5 5/16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's 1/16 more than a quarter, if that helps you out. And then make a mark there. Now we're going to have to cut the top and the bottom off of the folder. Okay? Now when you cut a manila folder, it works better if you cut towards the fold, and the cutter, the blade, seems to work better if it's not already kind of up in this little hole. So if you start from this end, make sure your folder's level and line it up with the wire in the center if you have a triple track like mine, which I really like the wire in the center. And then go back again, make sure you got it. Save these scraps, you'll find out why later. It's a secret, I'm not telling. Well, it looks like this one, we're going to have to start from the top. I don't really want to, but okay. Now I hope this is 10 5/8 because these are the last two center folders I have until 4 days from now. I use a lot of manila folders and I just happen to only have like 3 of the center ones. 10 and let's see, 4, 8, 9/16. So it looks like we're a 16th short. I'm not going to worry about a 16th. We were gonna have to trim our paper anyway. So that means my measurement was off by a 16th. If we make this one different though, they won't line up. So we're gonna have to make this the same. So we're gonna measure in to 5 13/16. Or we could do it the crazy way I had before, which was 5 1/2 and then 5/16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 13. And that's the center. So we're going to measure out 5 5/16 from either side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. You know, if I was smart, I would have just measured this. See, and that's 10 5/8. So, I must have measured wrong a little bit on this one. I'm cutting this one correctly. I have another one that's inked up, even though I'm not wild about the color. But I may, instead of inking, I may end up painting with acrylic paint. Because the ink, when you ink up the edges of the papers, on manila folders, to me, it kind of looks just like, kind of like it's dirty. So, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. All right. Now, go ahead. We're going to need a gusset on either side. And that's a spine. It's another word for a spine. And that's to make these two areas right here. Now, on a manila folder, you have what I call the natural fold, which is this fold right here where it naturally, you know, comes from the factory. On the rounded tab side of the manila folder, there are 3 score lines. And that's so when you put a lot of paper in there, you can widen out the bottom of it to make room for all the paper. And what we want to do is use those pre-made score lines, and we're going to go all the way to the one farthest from the center, and we're going to score that. You could just fold it if you want, if you're good with that. I'm going to make a little pencil mark. They're very hard to see in the light that I have. Once I move them away from the angle that's best for me to see them at. And I'm going to score them because it makes it much easier to fold. You can put it anywhere. I'm just using the score line. So just line it up, one of the score lines, with your pencil mark of where that third mark is. Don't fold the gusset in yet. Do the same thing on this one. I guess you don't want that too dark. Don't use a pen because you're going to be able to see them or see where they are. Once you erase the pencil mark, that area is visible in the project, if you know what I mean. Okay. And the scoreboard. Score! Score! Crowd roars. And I don't even watch soccer or football, depending on where you're watching this video from. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to outline the area where the pocket's going to be so that you know to ink down in there so that when people are looking at the folder, to make the book part of it, you're going to put, which one did I label this? You're going to put this part, the cutout part of folder A, underneath the cutout part of folder B. Now, you're not going to, at this point, you can paper clip them if you want. Make sure that you are not so close here to where your fold is going to be. I mean, I guess you can fold it if you want, but not so close to there that it's going to impede. I guess I better paper clip it first, or I'm going to be impeding because it's going to keep moving. You want to be able to fold this without anything getting in the way. So I guess we should go ahead and fold them. Okay. So let's just go ahead and fold them. And this is called burnishing. What it really means is forcing that puppy to fold. All right, so now if you close it, you'll see that you have cover A, and cover B, and then when you flip it over on the back, you can't see it. But you have the folder right here. Okay, so what you want to do is, while you've got everything lined up and paper clipped, go ahead and open it back up. That's why I wasn't going to fold them. Take your pencil, lightly, this is the operative term here, lightly trace where your pocket's going to be, because when you're inking, you need to ink down in there because people are going to see that. Now, I think what I'm going to do is cut a strip of paper from the paper that we're going to use and put it down in there to fill it in instead of ink it. All right, so you can do that too. All you need to do is cut a strip of paper from the kit that's about 1 inch wide, and glue it down in there so that it covers here, but you're going to have to make sure it's the whole width because you will see a little bit of it. It's so hard with this manila folder for you to see it, but hopefully you're working along with me and you can look at yours and you can see that there's a little gap, because remember, we've got that little gap for the folding on the inside, and so there's going to be a little bitty gap. And I don't mean gap like this isn't going to come right up to the crease. There's a little gap there, and before that you will be able to see when you ink. Okay, so now that you've marked where this is going to be, you can unclip them. And now you need to decide what you're going to do, because this is the time where we ink everything. You have to ink everything. When you, on a side note, when you've got them together, so you can see where I lightly traced where basically the thumb hole for the pocket is going to be, and that way I know that when I'm inking up the gusset area and the edge, that I also need to go down that far to fill in there, so that when you've got your project complete and they flip it over and look at the back for the pocket, there's not just plain manila folder right there. Okay, so when you've got it like this, and you're getting ready to paper clip it or whatever, and you get it all together, when you measure it, the part of that you're going to cover the paper should be 8 inches wide. That's exactly 8 inches wide by our 10 5/8. All right, just so you know. So it's going to be 8 inches wide in the center. Okay, so now you're just going to take these two folders apart, and you're going to ink everything. You're going to ink around all the edges. You're going to ink this. You're going to ink these edges here. And pick a color. I showed you the kit in the first video. If you're using those same kits, then you can pick, a color that goes with that. I've been having a hard time. Let me show you. This is my test folder. It gets better. I tested painting it. This is burnt sienna. This is burnt umber. This is brick something. anyway, ink. This is hickory smoke. This is bundled sage. This is bundled sage and hickory smoke together because I'm trying to match them. I'm trying to decide what the color of the pages. See, this burnt umber brings out this kind of a rusty brown color in here. This dark color, the burnt sienna, or the burnt umber, this is the burnt sienna, brings out all these dark colors. And to me, the inking kind of just looks dirty. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. By the way, this is what happened with one of my manila folders. See, and I tested this. That was hickory smoke. So I thought because of the darker, you know, sort of like the darker paint. Before I decided I would try the paint, I decided to try the darker ink. Then I put some bundled sage over the darker ink. So that's just so you know. Some of you may go and take a photo, which would be fine with this, and just go for it and be done. But I'm just giving you some tips about deciding on inking all this before you do, because even though manila folders are only like $10 for 100 of them, you can actually go through them fairly quickly if you have to keep redoing something. Of course, I keep these offcuts for other things, but I'm just saying. So right now that I gave you all that useless information, I guess, maybe the inking tips helped you. You're just going to ink everything, edges inside and out, gussets inside and out, and then make sure to get the area, oops, right here where your tab is, and then you'll be good to go. So I'm going to put you on pause while I decide what I'm going to do, and I do it. And then when we get back, we will glue this together. Okay, I'm back, and I know it looks like I have a mess, but I decided on what I'm going to do. I had some issues with trying to decide on the color that I wanted to use to ink, and everything looked kind of dirty. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Then I tested out these two acrylic paint, because manila folder will take acrylic paint even on both sides. And now I'm not sure I'd want to slather the whole thing, but you can do around the edges. And so I looked at this is burnt sienna, and this is burnt umber, and I liked both of them with the paper, and I'll show you that in just a second. But what I decided to ultimately do was to, because I couldn't find any, and I may do some of the inside with the ink and probably this brick, because it's the closest to some of the colors in here once it's on the manila folder. Because remember, your manila folders are not white, so your ink is not going to look the same as it does when you're inking something that's, you know, maybe in a kit that has a white edge. Okay, so I decided I didn't like any of those. I didn't like my combination. I did some on top of each other. This is now my official test sheet. It's my official crash test dummy. And so what I decided to do was to paint them. Now, this turned out, it doesn't look like it turned out well, but it did. It turned out really well. What I decided to do was to do the burnt sienna around the edge, and then do the burnt umber down the spine, and that way when it's closed together and it looks like a book, then it would look like a book. It would have the darker spine and then the lighter colored edges, and then of course the rest is going to be covered by paper. Now the reason this is paper clipped here is, remember, we had the area for the thumb hole, and I did it the dark color, and then I thought, and remember I had talked about this, about maybe doing a piece of paper across there, and I had kind of looked at that. Remember, this goes over this. So when you flip it over and the pocket is there, then you see that, right? And so I looked at that and I thought, not real wild about it. So what I decided to do instead is I put a paper clip where it needed to go as I was painting, so I remembered where to do it. Okay, if you're inking, you won't need to do any of that because you'll be able to see your very, very, very lightly drawn outline, remember? And there's a little teeny bit that shows all the way down. So, but anyway, I put the paper clip there so I remembered where to do it. Then I painted it in, and then I used the paper clip once I decided to use paper. Now, this is a piece of paper from the kit, and it's a background, so it's a repeating pattern. Now, if you look at this, the tree's upside down, so I'm going to need to turn it this way to put it on. And then this way, let me move it over a little bit. This way, when it's all put together, it will look like that. This will have paper on it. This will be folded like this. And this is the paper that you'll see. So I think that's going to look much better once you get paper on here. And the paper I selected for the back, I believe, is going to be this one. And that will go nice with that. It matches this. They're from the same kit. Okay, so let's put this puppy together. First, we're going to, you, me, and I, me, myself, and I? You and I. We're going to glue this piece of paper down. Remember, every time you're gluing, you can't glue so close to the fold line that you cannot fold. You can't glue so close to your spine that you can't fold. So let's center this. Okay, now remember, the notched side of A goes underneath the notched side of B. That's the way we remembered it, correct? All right, so what we wanted to do was flip it over, hoping my voice would not continue to crack. We're going to actually, let's open it out now that we've got it flipped over. Now remember, we want it set. I'm going to want to put that up to there. Then I want to double check that doesn't make it too close. I think I'm going to bring it back just a smidge. Then you'll see where my paper doesn't go quite to the edge though. Okay, I'm going to go like this and cross my fingers. Because when I pull it this way, it makes the inside a little bit narrower. I didn't realize, or I would have made the paper go all the way across. I bet I still have time. Yay, Fabrifix. So I'll just cut another piece of paper, and I will slide it down in there and glue it. So for now, let's go ahead and get this part completed. And it was going to look so pretty too. But I didn't think about that little bit would show all the way across. I was just thinking about the center. Okay, so we want this here. Oh, and you can't tell on camera probably, except for my hair. This sounds like, and it feels like leather. So that turned out well. And it's okay that this doesn't cover on the inside because it's going to be covered by paper. All right, so let's try that again. Let's flip it over. And then we're going to flip this back. We're going to glue on this one, because that way we can go around the notch. We don't want to go across here. That was the glue from my paper. Now I'm not going to glue all the way up because it makes little spider webs when I'm going across the paint, apparently. Because I want to be able to pull it back just a little bit to put another piece of paper back in there. Okay, let's glue that down. Now I'm going to flip it over and double check. Yeah, see, I have room. It's hard to see on the camera, but my gusset line goes right along here. See, I told you these scraps were good for something, but it goes right along here. So I've got plenty of room to fold. Now let me make sure it's not way too much bigger than 8 inches. Nope, it's still 8 inches. I guess I did it just right. And so now your cover, your outside cover, if you've painted it, you may have to redo your folds a little bit. No biggie. I did one coat. That's all it needs. If you do it a little bit thicker, don't water your paint down. Oh, let me show you what I used real quick. All right, so anyway, your cover, your outside cover is now done. That was all there was to that. Okay, I used this burnt umber. It's by My Artscape, and I got a whole box of these. And these are pretty large jars. These are 3-ounce jars, and not mil, ounce. And I think 12. I think I got 12 of them in a thing for, I don't know, less than $20. So it was a good deal. So anyway, this is burnt sienna. This is burnt umber. This is the colors they look like in the jar, in case you're wondering. I'll put a link to them in the text file below. Okay, so that's it for putting together your cover, and then we'll move on to the next section in the next video, and that will be just a second for you and a day for me. Bye-bye.